problem with the old style of reading is they actually never seen this before. For them, it's okay, it's got to be just this, right? So either you're a doctor, or you're a dentist, or an accountant. Fire transforms other elements. Other elements can't do that. Earth cannot do anything to the fire. Earth can't do much to the wood. Only fire can make other elements change. A good life, it's made up of good decisions. So did you know that Chinese metaphysics also have prophecies? My assessment of this prophecy is that we probably will discover for the first time that we are not alone in the universe. The fourth line basically say that wars will end, but not without paying a high price. This is just the beginning, I think.
I'd like to welcome to the show, Joey Yap, man. How you doing, Joey?
Hi, thank you so much for having me today.
I'm like super excited to talk to you because I've never had anybody on the show that can teach me about Chinese metaphysics and Chinese astrology. And I know a little bit about Chinese astrology just from,
Okay.
being in the States and being into this kind of stuff. I was born the year of the tiger, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
and you could tell me about that in a minute.
All right.
But I'm
Sure.
really,
Yeah.
but really fascinated about Chinese metaphysics and
Okay.
all of it. So my first question to you, Joe, is what got you interested going down the path of Chinese metaphysics, astrology, and you also do feng shui as well? What got you down this
Yeah.
road? I mean,
Mm.
I'm assuming you weren't a 5-year-old sitting in the playground going, "I want to do astrology."
Well, one day it was bright lights and suddenly I was here.
Yeah.
No, actually, it's a childhood interest because metaphysics, first of all, this word, Chinese metaphysics, I think it was the closest word I could use back in 1999 when I came to the States and talked about Feng Shui.
Hmm.
Because Feng Shui is just one of the many different types of Chinese metaphysics systems, such as Chinese astrology,
Hmm.
Feng Shui, I Ching, Qi Men Dun Jia, these techniques of reading the stars and all that. All this stuff is actually under the category of Chinese metaphysics. So, and they share the same fundamentals, right? So I got started when I was about 15 years old, and I was just reading some books about how to, arrange the alignment of the home, because at that time my dad was moving houses, and at that time there was an old feng shui master, coming to check the land, check the house, the orientation, and so I got interested in that, and I studied since then. And because at 15 years old, just like everybody else, pretty lost at that time, what should I do with my life, right? You thought you can figure your whole life out at 15, right? And so at that time, there was, I got to visit to a lot of this, at that time, they were called fortune tellers, right? That's what we call them, fortune tellers, right? So
Hmm.
a lot of them look at my chart and they said, it's very average life. You just, it's okay. Don't worry. You must accept your fate. And one of them specifically told me, I was 15 at the time. He said that, you know what? Your chart has this configuration called the wealth is your enemy, and therefore you'll be poor until 45. And I said, okay, so what happens after 45 years old? Well, then you get used to it. So that was the comment. And I thought, oh my God, what should I do, right? So that was the pivoting moment that I thought to myself, maybe I could do something about it, because at 15 to 45 was a good 30 years, right? And so I started to study the astrology. I started to study metaphysics. And I found out that whatever the master said about my chart was correct according to traditional norms, the traditional way of reading a chart. But then the old style of reading is all about conforming to your fate. You accept it, therefore life is peaceful, right? But I got 30 years. What if I don't like the direction I'm going in? So I decided, let's go the other way, right? I will embrace the weakness and turn the weakness to strength. And so I got 30 years to plan that out. And that's how I went into this field. And then the more I studied, the more fascinating I found this subject to be. And a lot of transformation did happen. And so I taught myself how to be, good at presentation, teaching, public speaking, because I thought that is the only way to actually, share some of this knowledge to the public. And I realized that at that time, in the Chinese community, no one would take me seriously. I was like 15, 19 years old when I was doing this. And so in university in Australia, I started to share some of my knowledge in Feng Shui, and people were interested. I thought, oh, that's great. So that's how I got started.
So you were able to shift your destiny in the
Yeah.
sense because
Okay.
it's a pretty yeah, you're going to be broke until 45 and then after that you just get used to it. That's a rough
Yeah.
rough fortune, rough
But that
destiny.
is how traditional fortune tellers or masters they'll look at your chart, because you see the problem with Chinese astrology, the original texts, because I don't know there were original texts back then. Right now I do know the texts do say stuff like that. It's very fatalistic approach. Like you have this structure in your chart, this, you're rich. This, poor for life. That's the way they state the configurations in the chart. But they actually don't show you, no astrology book in the past will actually tell you, okay, so how do you actually change it? So that part, I discovered that there's two versions. One is your fate, the stuff that you're born with. And then there's another part that, okay, you can do something about it. Certain things in your life have to be good. You got these components, your year above, month above, day above, hour above, and then you have your luck cycles. Surely, out of all this stuff, there can be one or two things that are good. So my take was focus on the good, focus on the stuff that you can actually do, not on the stuff that you cannot do. And so with that, I realized that hey, you can actually change this stuff. You can actually alter it. So that's, it took a long time to find out, because those days we grew up in a society, a Chinese culture is okay, you gotta accept it because that's the way it is.
Interesting. Yeah, the Chinese culture is very different than the American culture in that
Very
sense. In the
different.
American,
Yeah.
very different. The American culture, anything is possible. And
Yeah.
as they say, we're number one in confidence, 37th in math, but number one in confidence.
Well, I
So
like that of having confidence to change. I think
yeah.
destiny is what you make out of whatever is given, right? And so I
Mm.
realized that every chart there's something good, and as you unlock certain things, yeah, it's a bit difficult, but you know what? It's worth the effort, and that's
Yeah,
what I tell
obviously.
people today. A lot of things if you put your mind to it, and there are certain things that are good in your chart, you develop those skill set that it's in your destiny. You
Mhm.
you become good at something. That's how you create passion as well. A lot of times people think that, okay, I'm going to find my passion from my destiny chart. I'm going to see where's my passion. Your passion is not lying somewhere waiting for you to find it. You have to look at the elements and say, okay, these are the stronger elements. You do this stuff, you develop the skills, and over time you discover, oh my God, this is now my passion, because you're so good at doing it. Everything that we're good at doing is because, we spend time doing it. And because we're doing so well, that's why we have passion doing this. If you suck at something, you won't have passion doing it, right? Because you don't do well. So
Very, very
in
true.
don't you think so? So, but everything that we're good at doing today is because we actually spend significant time developing the skill set, and we get good results from doing it. And so the chart doesn't give you instantaneous like effects, right? Like you see certain things in your chart, it takes a bit of time, put in some effort, develop the skill set, and over time you look back, now you have a passion because you're good at doing it.
So let me ask you, when you're reading a chart in Chinese astrology, is it kind of like they're like it's setting, there's things that are in the stars when you were born, and your life plan is kind of set up in a certain way, but they're kind of like giant mile markers. Like there's certain things that are not going to be moved. Like you're born to these parents, you're born in this country. There's certain things that you're starting off point, and there'll probably be big things like, I'm going to be a filmmaker. That was in my chart. Like that was part of my destiny. I did 30 years in the film industry. So that makes sense. Like that was part of my thing. Now there's a lot of wiggle room between
Yeah.
being born and your passion or your career or your love. How you get there is really up to you. Is that kind of the way it is in
It,
Chinese
it,
astrology?
it is like that, and it's like, okay. So in Chinese astrology, you have year above, month above, day above, hour above, and a luck cycle, a 10-year period. Okay, so it's kind of like a map, right? So you have a big map, and then in that treasure map, assume there's a treasure map. There are many different treasures, not just one. So it's good,
Mhm.
one route to this treasure, one route to another, and then another one to this. So the question is, which one do you pursue? So maybe in your destiny, you have decided that filmmaker route. But
Hmm.
filmmaker route could have also been different types of, there are different roles within that. You could have
Hmm.
chosen, to be a director, as you said, right? Or you could be the star, or you could be, there's so many
Writer,
different
sure. Yeah.
writer, right?
Yeah.
So there are different things you could do, right? But also within filmmaker, because it belongs to the fire element can also do other things, right? So today, fire represents technology as well. So what you're doing, for example, in your podcast, this is a different version of filmmaking, right?
Hmm.
So that has a lot of room to play with. The problem with the old style of reading is they actually never seen this before. For them, it's okay, it's got to be just this, right? So either you're a doctor, or you're a dentist, or an accountant, right? So you know how the older generation is, right? You only get these three choices. That's it. You choose one.
It's very fascinating that the old generation is a little bit more stuck in a dogma almost of like how they read these charts, where the younger
Yes.
generation coming in is looking at these charts like, no, 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 you've got to open your mind a little bit. It
Right.
seems
Yes.
like, and we're talking about thousands of years. How old is Chinese astrology? We're talking, how far back does it go?
Okay. It was developed in the Tang Dynasty. That's about 1,200 years. Okay, so it's not like Western astrology that probably started in the Babylon times,
Sure.
but the stars are the same. All right, the stars are the
Perfect.
same. It's the same group of stars, right? It's nothing to do. We look at the stars, just different names, right?
Mhm.
So the difference is, we know today that the stars have shifted. Okay, we know
Mhm.
because or Virgo is no longer Virgo back in the Babylon times.
Right.
So when Chinese astrology is that we look at sections of the orbit. So the 12 houses in Western astrology and the 12 houses in Chinese astrology, it's the definition is somewhat different. Okay,
Hmm.
so we look at the components within that section. So those stars have shifted, the components will also change. So in Chinese astrology, they use a lot of fixed stars, whereas the moving stars, the dynamic aspect of it, is lesser emphasis. Is always by sectors. So that's why you
Hmm.
have the 12 animal signs, right? The 12 animal signs is actually 12 sections of our orbit around the sun. And so that's the basis behind Chinese astrology. But there's also one part about Chinese astrology that's quite different than Western is that we use virtual stars. Like, for example, every year, like this is the snake year, the direction of southeast where the snake sector is,
Hmm.
because the sector is also based on a direction, is called the Grand Duke star. There is no planet there called the Grand Duke. It's assumed to be there. So we call this virtual stars. It's kind of like the north and south node in Western astrology.
Hmm.
It's actually not there, but we assume that it's there, right? So that virtual star is the concept of behind a lot of Chinese metaphysics stars. So that's why we use elements, right? We look at sections of the skies, and then we look at energies, right? We talk about this planet or the position that have that type of energy, meaning qi, right? Qi flow. I don't know if you're familiar with that
Sure.
word,
Of course.
right?
Sure.
So that's the configuration of a person's chart. So the difference is we don't look at, okay, it has to be like down to this minute of birth. We look at, okay, it's around the snake hour. So we take that energy of the snake and form a energy map. That's what you call a bazi. So a lot of people think it has to be down to the minute because astrology has to be accurate. If you do Western astrology, yes. You do Chinese astrology, is this 2 hour time frame. So if you're roughly in the morning hour of snake, that energy of the snake will prevail. It doesn't mean that at this moment, suddenly the snake becomes a horse at that one second. It's kind of like a flow. You know?
It's a
People
gradient.
have that assumption, right? Yeah, it's
It's
a
like
gradient, right? It is.
yeah.
It doesn't like this moment you're a snake, this moment you're a horse. It's just it's not like that, right?
So let's talk a little bit about the zodiac or I guess the Chinese zodiac with the animals. Just because I'm curious, I was born as the year of the tiger, 1974. What does I
1974, good tiger. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
So,
was a tiger.
so, so
So what is
that so
tell me.
Chinese astrology is divided this way. Okay, so that's your year of birth animal sign. You
Mhm.
also have a month of birth animal sign, which many people don't know, right? What month are
Okay.
you born in?
June.
Okay, is it after June the 6th?
It is.
After June 6th. Okay, then you're born in the month of the horse.
Oh, really?
So
So I wasn't the year of the tiger.
the year of the tiger, month of
Uh,
the horse. So now
horse.
you're two animal signs. All right. Now to calculate your day of birth, I will need the calendar to do that, but I can do your hour of birth. What's your hour of birth?
Around 5 o'clock.
In the evening?
Yes.
So that's a rooster hour. So now I know three animal signs out of four in your chart. So the
Okay.
year represents your external influences, right? Your school, your network, your industry, your friends. So a lot of times people think that the year animal sign, how can the whole world just be 12 people, right? There's be 12 types of people. No, but there are 12 animal signs born in different months. So you're a tiger year person born in a horse month in a rooster hour. The month represents your work, your business, your capacity to achievements, and then we look at the hours, your aspirations, your dreams, your desires, right? What you wish to create. The day represents yourself about your personal relationships. It represents how you see yourself, how you view yourself, your own identity. So now you have four animal signs. Okay,
Mhm.
so every year or every 10 years, we look at what are the stars that enter the section of the tiger. Then we know in terms of your network, what opportunities could be there, or what sort of people you'll be meeting, what sort of capacity, right? The external. We look at the horse, for example, this year horse. Horse is one of the most favorable animal signs in 2025. So you know that in your work, there's going to be opportunities for you to meet certain people, intellectual people, because there's an intellectual star there. And there's also a relationship star there. So you build very long-lasting relationships if you will pursue the relationship from your work perspective. So now we know work has that. So the hour pillar is rooster. So hour represents your ideas, your ambition, your dreams. So if you're going to launch new projects, it's going to be very good this year because there's a certain star that is called the three stages. It's kind of like a staircase that leads upwards. So it's
Mhm.
like a sort of a value chain for your customers. You buy the first product, you go to the second, and go to the third. So it's a
Mhm.
ascension model. So if you're advising someone who has a rooster hour, who's starting a business, you tell them, hey, you need to put your customers on an ascension model, and the value will be higher for each customer. So we look at what is inside these animal signs for that 1 year. So they change every
Interesting.
year. Yeah, so instead of saying, your the Jupiter is at this sector and it influence you in this way, we look at what are the configurations inside each animal sign. That's how
Interesting.
the Chinese astrology on an annual basis is done.
That's amazing. So that's why it's not like the horoscopes that you see like every day. Like today, if you're a Cancer, Virgo's rising, and you can't like the things you read in the newspaper.
It's a very different way of looking at the components. Yeah.
Oh,
And also
of
there's a
astrology.
relationship. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's I think in astrology there are oppositions and conjunctions. It's pretty similar in Chinese astrology as well. You do get the clashes and the combinations. That's when it gets a little bit more sophisticated.
And are you familiar with the Vedic astrology, the Indian
I've heard of it.
astrology?
I didn't do any research on that, so not too familiar with the details. I've heard
Got
about
it.
it.
Yeah, that's another old system.
Yes,
The
it is.
Western Vedic and Chinese are those are the three. I'm sure there's
For
others,
sure.
but
Yeah.
those are the three. I was just curious. So let's dive into these other systems you were talking about. You pronounced it correctly. I'm not going to pronounce it correctly, but I will do the best I can. The Qi Men
Right.
Dun Jia is the four-word one.
Qi Men Dun Jia.
Qi Men Dun Jia. Dujan.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. What
Qi Men.
is
You can
that?
call it, in short, you can call it Qi Men. So Qi
Mm.
Men is it's a system for forecasting. So originally was developed as a system for war. So back in the Three Kingdoms, there's a very famous novel called The Romance of the Three Kingdoms, right?
Mhm.
So there was I think that is the more famous one for popular one for the Western culture, The Romance of the
Mhm.
Three Kingdoms. So there's one character called Zhuge Liang or Master Kong Ming, who is a master of metaphysics. So one of the famous methods that he liked to use is the method of Qi Men. So in that story, he's able to predict the movement and the path of the enemies. He's able to see what are the changes in terms of the terrains and the strategies of the enemy, and therefore subdue the enemies all the time. So the Qi Men is about forecasting strategies. So in terms of how we use Qi Men today, we use it for business advisory. So it's not about predicting what will happen. It's about saying, okay, I decide to launch my book, let's say 2 months from now. What do you think can go wrong? So we look at the chart and we say, oh, I think this has a problem, that has a problem, right? You want to fix this now before it becomes an issue. So you forecast an activity, and you want to see what sort of blockages, obstacles you have. Or if you say, I want to do this project, how do I do it better? Then the chart will show, okay, here are 2 ways you can actually do it better. This. So that is a forecasting system. That's what Qi Men Dun Jia is.
And how about, again, please forgive me, is it Bazi? What is that?
Bazi is Chinese astrology, the original name for Chinese astrology.
Oh, okay. So that's just basically just an original name for Chinese astrology.
Yeah. So basically, it means the 4 pillars of destiny. It means 8 characters or 4 pillars of destiny.
So what are the 4 pillars of destiny, and how does that work with astrology in general?
4 pillars of destiny is your year of birth, month of birth, day of birth, and hour of birth. So how it looks like is you have your year animal sign. Like, for example, yourself, you're born in a wood tiger year. So that's 2 characters. Right? So you're born in the horseman, right? You're born in the horseman. So in the horseman, there's another 2 characters. On the day, there's another 2 characters. On the hour, 2 characters. So it's called Bazi, means 8 characters. So your destiny is written in these 8 words. That's what the Bazi means. Qi Men means mystical doors. Mystical doors. So mystical timing, time dimension. So at certain people have certain question, a certain period of time. You look at the doors. Doors means it's a map. Okay, this way, this obstacle. This way, do that, and you succeed. So it's an advisory thing. So we use that for a lot of businesses to advise them. All right, what do you do? What should you do? What are the obstacles? Who's your enemy? And so forth.
So how do the elements play into these? The 5 elements. How does that play into everything we're talking about?
So 5 elements is like the language, right? Like right now we're using ABCDs, right? For English, right? So we also use ABCD for other languages. So ABCD, the alphabets, it's the 5 elements in metaphysics. So whether you're doing the I Ching, I believe you call it the I Ching in
the I
West,
Ching,
right? The I Ching, right? So the I Ching, the Qi Men, Bazi, Feng Shui, they all share the same language, which is the 5 elements. So the same alphabets are used, right? But before you assume that they're the same, unfortunately, they're different. It's like English uses the alphabets in a different way. And then if you're speaking the French language, you're going to use the same alphabets in a different way. Even you pronounce it differently, right? So you got to understand that Feng Shui, Bazi, Qi Men, all these are metaphysics, although they share the same alphabets, but the references to the applications is slightly different. So in Feng Shui, for example, every direction has an element. Every sector in the house has an element. What people assume is Feng Shui in the West, I've seen a lot, is that they assume that, it's going to be my painting, it's got to be my couch, it's in the wrong sector. But what we really do in Feng Shui is not that. What we really do, just last night, I was having a dinner with a friend of mine, and she's someone from overseas, and she assumed that she did her Feng Shui well because she had the best meaningful painting in the house, right? So I said, the painting's got nothing to do with your Feng Shui. I said, oh, but it has got this good Chinese meaning on it. It represents abundance. So that's for your psychology. In Feng Shui, we are talking about direction, location, and time. The true art of Feng Shui is when you've done the Feng Shui, nobody should know that you've done Feng Shui. It's so subtle because you are in the right spot, the right alignment. If your house looks like a Chinese restaurant after you did Feng Shui, you probably got an interior decorator in the house, So it's
I'm laughing. I'm laughing, Joy, because when I did feng shui in my house when I was in my early 20s, I was like, you know
Right.
what? I don't want to. I got my house, and I'm like, I don't want to just put movie posters up and be a dork. I already have like a life-size Yoda in my house. I need this to look a little. I got to be a grown-up now. And I was like, you know what? Feng shui sounds like a good thing. My house looked like a Chinese restaurant.
No, no.
I had
I
I
think
have
that,
I had the what are those the those like kind of things hanging. I forgot what they were called. The hanging in the corners. I had plastic
the,
leaves
the,
hanging to take
the
away
trinkets, right?
oh
Yeah,
my
the trinket.
God, giant
Yeah.
golden Buddha. It was a Chinese
Oh,
restaurant. That's why I'm laughing so much because it literally looked like a Chinese restaurant.
so that's the thing, right? The items and objects that have symbolic meaning has
Mhm.
been mistaken to be feng shui. Has been mistaken as a big mistake for it, right? Um, you see, the thing with feng shui, the original books, which is written 1,000 years, right, throughout the centuries, they always talk about the alignment of the landforms together with the direction, and it has to match with your personal parts, your astrology. So there are four components that actually represent genuine, true feng shui.
Mhm.
Environment, meaning your mountains, your hills, your contour of the land, the water formations. Nature, number two, your building, the way you construct and design the building. And number three, the resident means you, your own astrology. And number four, time, when you use the space and what affects each area at which period of time. So these four components are the four fundamentals of authentic feng shui. When we go to the West and we hear what people talk about feng shui, it's sometimes it's I mean, we don't say much, but we, oh, this plant, they spend an hour talking about the plant and how many fishes should be in the aquarium, and they have a debate. Should it be eight? Should it be nine, right? And then if the fishes die, they're supposed to absorb your bad luck. The fishes die because you didn't change the water. It's not because it absorbed your bad luck. So in feng shui, the water, because back in the old days, you have to understand, qi needs to be activated. So water
Mhm.
is yang, water element is yang, mountain is yin. So water is positioned because we want to activate the qi flow. Whether you have fish or not, it doesn't matter. The fish is there to eat the mosquitoes. That was it, right? So otherwise you have mosquito problem, right? In the tropical climate. So the fishes to keep the water lively. It's not
Mhm.
because the fishes bring good luck. But of course, people don't know that, right? They don't know that. They think, it must be the fishes. No, it's the location of the water within that house. So that's the a lot of misconception, right? So the four components make up how energy or chi flow is in a property. So a lot of people who don't believe in feng shui still have the effect of feng shui because they are in the right location, not because they
Mm.
have some plant in the corner of their house. Yeah. So that's the biggest difference, I think, with the understanding of feng shui. Now, of course, some of us will argue, but if symbolic meaning bring positive feelings, yeah, but you can do that through positive thinking as well. There's a whole world of law of attraction in the West that works way better than you putting paintings in the house. So
So
that's
I don't
that's
need
very much.
so I don't need a life-size golden Buddha. Uh,
No, you don't need one. Buddha is not going to change your feng shui of the house. It's the direction, location, and time that actually changes or supports the feng shui of the house.
You mentioned, Joy, you mentioned the I Ching. I've always been fascinated by the I Ching. Can you explain to me? I
Mhm.
understand it's kind of a fortune telling. This is my ignorant understanding of it. If you open
Oh,
it up, it's some sort of fortune telling, and like it could. I really don't know other than it's like you can read your future in it. That's all I know about the I Ching. Can you explain to me
okay.
what the I Ching is?
Yeah, sure. So the I Ching originally, all metaphysics originated from the I Ching. But what most, I think, Western audience know about I Ching is the so-called fortune-telling part. But I Ching is actually a philosophy. All right, there's two components to it. The original part of I Ching is to tell people how to live. It's about the way of the universe. It was not used to predict the future. It's only in later times that the model has been changed to say, oh, this scripts is kind of like Nostradamus. There are some very cryptic sentences. If we just devise the decoding of these sentences, we can now predict our future. So that part is the prediction section of I Ching, which became more popular because people like to know their future, right? But originally, the I Ching is about, talking about people how to be, it's kind of like today, how you live a spiritual life. How do you get fulfillment? How do you, be a better human being? How do you be happier? It's a way of life. So it's Confucius studied the I Ching and have the whole, philosophy of, Chinese culture, ethics, and all that. So that part, a lot of people don't know because most books on I Ching talks about the prediction part, which, by the way, in the prediction part, there are also 3 versions of it. The version that is famous and popular in the West is text-based I Ching. Text-based means that in the I Ching, there were original Chinese texts. The original I Ching is probably just like 5 pages, yeah, because it's just one-liners, So it's on bamboo scrolls back in those days. So you have to interpret something that's written 2,000 years ago. Of course, it doesn't fit to the modern society now, right? So those are text-based I Ching. Then another version of it, which came around during the Song Dynasty, is that you take the I Ching and eliminate the text. Eliminate the text, and you look at the trigrams and its elements. Remember, you asked me about the 5 elements? So we take the 8 trigrams, put in the 5 elements, and look at the interactions between these elements. The interaction can be producing, it can be countering, and each trigram has a certain attribute, and that sort of tells you what are the outcomes of a certain question that you've asked. So that is called plum blossom divination system. Plum blossom, there's a story behind it because this system at that time, the original founder is called Siu Hongqi. Okay, you just call him Mr. Siu. So Mr. Siu, back in that time, he was studying the original I Ching, trying to read the text. Right, no breakthrough. So one day he decided, it's too noisy in the city where he lived. He wanted to go up to the mountain and get a hut and study the I Ching, contemplate. They would say contemplate on the yi for until he can get a breakthrough. So as he was there, no breakthrough, and one day he was lying down on his bed, and there was a rat in the corner of the room, right, making a lot of sound, and is like very annoyed with it. So he took his pillow. Those days, pillows are not like what we have today. It's made of bricks, ceramic pillow. So he took the ceramic and he swing it at the rat, and it broke. And the rat obviously escaped, but the pillow broke, and he went and said, oh, there's a piece of paper. And on the piece of paper, it said, on so-and-so date, this pillow will be used to hit a rat, and it will be broken. No. And he's like, oh my God, he's so amazed with that. He said, I got to go and find out how. So he went back down to the village, the town, and to the shop that he bought that pillow, that ceramic pillow. And he asked, so who made this? He said, this is the one who created the pillow already know that you'll be coming today. He said that when the time comes, please go and see him at this address. He said, oh my God, how does this work? Right? So he followed the address and went up to the other side of the hill, and there was a hut, and he went there and knocked on the door. He said, I'm supposed to come here to look for the person who created this pillow. Then a young man answered and said, oh, the man already died long time ago, but he left this book for you and a note. He said, oh my God, what is this? So he read the book. That book is a different way of looking at the I Ching. And that way is what I've just told you. It's called the plum blossom technique. But he didn't say it was plum blossom. It's just a technique to look at the elements of the hexagram. So he learned it. He went back to his side, learned it for a couple of years, and finally he became so good at it that he went back to the young man and said, your master has left something at the northwest corner of the house for you. And he went there and he digged down behind the bed. And sure enough, there was a bag of gold that he left for the family. So he knew he graduated. So this guy is so good at what he does that a lot of officials and a lot of business people look for him for advice. So one day, one of them asked him, what's the name of your system? He said, I haven't got a name for it. But at that time, they were standing in a plum blossom garden. So he said, we'll call it the plum blossom oracle. That's how the plum blossom oracle of the I Ching came about. So that is the second form of I Ching. So I call it I Ching, but it's actually called the I Ching. So, and that form, it doesn't use the text. It's just used elements, right? So the third form of the I Ching is that we allocate the animal signs like tiger, horse, rooster, and all that to the lines inside the I Ching. So there's 6 lines. There'll be 6 animal signs in there, and we're going to assign the elements from each of these lines interacting with one another. So again, it's a deviation from the original text, which is very popular in the West, and it uses it's kind of like the Bazi, the astrology system, to look at the interaction between the lines. So that is called we call it the coin-based system. So they use the coins to cast the hexagram, and once you see the hexagram, you don't look at the text, but you look at the interaction of the lines on the hexagram. So today, because nowadays people have access to all 3, so they kind of combined all 3 together. You can use the animal signs and the plum blossom technique, and when you're not sure, look at the text. All right, so that's what the I Ching is about today. So the whole concept of the 64 hexagrams is basically originally about how we should live our life. Basically, it's like today is like, it's a self-improvement book. It's a peak performance book. Basically, that's what it is. Okay. So the concept of the yin and yang and the 8 trigrams was subsequently borrowed and used in Feng Shui, and is used in all different types of metaphysics, such as Chinese astrology, Liu Ren, which is different technique of metaphysics. Everything uses the trigram. So we always say it comes from the I Ching.
That's thank you so much for that. I'm so much more educated about the I Ching or the I Ching. Now I appreciate that. I have to ask you, Joey. I mean, we're talking a lot about, the stars and this elements and the coins and the text and the blossoms and all of these kind of things that seem so ethereal. So
Yes.
not you can't really grab it
Yeah.
culturally. It seems like and please tell me if I'm wrong. Culturally, the Asian or the Chinese culture specifically, but Asians in general seem to be very open to these ideas. Like
Yes.
the Hindus and the Indians over in India are very open to a lot of the spirituality that comes out of that region of the world. But in the West, we are a little bit more open on it, but it has to be more based on materialistic, like
Correct.
what's going to
Yes.
happen to my job. It's not as spiritual. It's opening up to that more and more. But what do you tell people who look at you like you spent your life talking about stars and predicting the future? It sounds insane. What do you tell
Yeah.
people who I'm sure this has happened. It happens to all of
Yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, of course, many times. But the thing is, we don't predict the future. You see, the I Ching part of predicting the future, that part is actually, it's not very useful. Yeah.
Mhm.
The most useful part is the forecasting. Forecasting basically says, what do you intend to do? And we forecast the potential outcome. So it's used to get results. So instead of saying this star, that star, and all this stuff, which is obviously not important to most people, most important is what results people actually get in life, right? If someone's going to launch a business project, they want that project to succeed. So how do we succeed? What do we need to focus on or to work on in order to get to the outcome that we want? So metaphysics should be used to actually help people get results, not trying to say we're going to predict your future, because the future cannot happen unless you happen, unless you do something, right? So what you choose to do now will decide the outcome. And the way we look at the future is very simple. We look at you see that in the Bagua, I'm pretty sure you know the 8 trigrams about Bagua, right? You've
Mhm.
seen the Bagua before, right? Okay. So did you know that that's the arrangement of the trigrams? There's one version called the early heaven and one version called the later heaven. All right. So there are 2 versions. So it's a yin and yang version, right? So one version is called the pre-heaven, which means called the fixed trigrams. The other one is called the evolving trigrams. What is happening in the future? So, in other words, if we're trying to, we look at the past, right? A lot of people look at the past define us today. The past this, we are traumatized in a young age. That's why we are suffering. The past karma, whatever, right? That is the old way of looking at it. Or we look at this. If we do something today, our future will be different. But what metaphysics, what the I Ching or the Qi Men is trying to tell us is this. We don't look at the past and say the past defined us. We redefine the past. You look at the past and just say, okay, this is how we should see it, not say this caused me to be like this. And we look at the future not because we do something, we want something else in the future. We look at an ideal future and look backwards from that future to say, if I want to do this, what do I need to do 10 times different today? So the future should define the present should rewrite the past. That is the concept of the yi. But the most problem is people think that the past define me and I will define my future. But what we're trying to say, the forecast is look at the best outcome and live that life. Now turn around and say, what do you need to do now in order to get to this 10 times better position? That is how the forecasting actually works in metaphysics. So it's a bit different than I think how people see, I'm trying to predict the future. No, you're creating it. You're creating that 10 times better version. Not if you're trying to do something better today, right? Let's say you're trying to work 10 times harder, right? It's a bit hard because you don't know what to do. And even if you look at a job, right, most people get, okay, 5-10% increment, maybe 20% if they work really hard. But how will you get the quantum leap? That big transformation, jumping from, let's say, for an ordinary person, from 5 figures to 6 figures, 6 figures to 7 figures, and 7 figures to 8 figures, it's a huge jump. Even if you do 10% improvement every single day, you're not going to get there unless you look at the future where you already have the 10 figure and now look back at where you are and say, I probably need a different route. I need to do something totally different.
I love the way you're approaching this, or the way that Chinese metaphysics approaches this. It's very, very different than you're saying that it's not a prediction as much as it is
forecasting. It's a forecasting.
Forecasting,
forecast.
Which is very different, very, very different, because most quote unquote fortune telling or metaphysics talks about predictions. But what you're talking about is a forecast, which has the potential, of course, to shift in a person's life. So I have to ask you, because the world seems a little crazy right now. 2025, since 2020, we've been on an absolute roller coaster around the world, and 2025 does not seem to be slowing anything down. If anything, it seems to be speeding up. I've coined this era, this decade, the decade of the China, a bull in a China shop, because there's a lot of bulls in a lot of China shops, and a lot of things are being broken left and right, everywhere, in every industry, in every government, and everywhere there seems to be going on. So I want to ask you first of all, 2025, which is the year of the wood snake. What does that mean for global trends? Where do you see, what's the forecast, sir, for this year, for the US, for the world, for China, for all of it, like the economy, diseases, everything. Tell me the forecast, sir.
Okay. So, all right. So there's two versions to actually look at the year, all right? So you're asking for the forecast version, which is my interpretation, but there's also the predictions. So if we have time, I can get some information on it. You see, the thing is, I'm pretty sure you are aware of Nostradamus and all his predictions.
Of course.
He is doing what they call prophecies, right? Mm-hmm. So did you know that Chinese metaphysics also have prophecies?
I'm sure.
They also have prophecies. Yeah. So, but the thing is, this is not as popular, right? So there are 3 books or 3 historical figures that talk about prophecies, right? Okay. One of them is called the Mother Earth Oracle. You see, no prophecies actually talked up in Chinese metaphysics. I can't speak for the Western world, right? In Chinese metaphysics, no astrologer, in Chinese astrologer or I Ching astrologer or whatever has predicted the pandemic, except for one prophecy that is written that nobody looks at. It's called the Mother Earth Oracle. So this is done. The Mother Earth Oracle is written about 300 plus years ago by one of the masters. I can't remember his name right now, and he wrote down 60 poems. The 60 poems represents the 60 cycle of the animal science. And so 2020, most of us in astrology, Chinese astrology, never look at this like, this is so many hundred years ago, doesn't matter anymore. But only this text says that there will be a major illness and there will be many graveyards on the hills. Wow. So when we look back, we realize, oh my God, it's already written in this text. So then every Chinese astrologer in Asia started to read this book because this is so accurate, right? So this is called the Mother Earth Oracle. Now, besides the Mother Earth Oracle, there's another prophecy book called the Pushing Back Diagram. Pushing back, back? Pushing your back diagram. So this was written during the Tang Dynasty. Tang Dynasty is about 1,400 years ago. And so at that time, the emperor, the third emperor of the Tang Dynasty, he now had the whole China, and he wants to know how long his empire will last, how many generations. And so he summoned the Grand Master of Metaphysics. They always have one in the imperial court, okay? So this guy called Yun Tin Gong, Master Yuan, came over and said, okay, but I know that if I tell you the truth, I'm not going to get anywhere, right? Because in the imperial court, you don't say anything bad to the emperor. That's rule number one. Rule number two is don't forget rule number one, right? So what should I do? And then he draw pictures. So he painted the picture of 21 and a half peaches. He said to tell, oh, Your Majesty, this is your dynasty. So the emperor looked at the peaches. Oh, like peaches, peaceful, beautiful, symbolic, right? 21, oh, very good, very nice. So there's 21 and a half, right? So it turns out that the Tang Dynasty really only has 21 and a half emperor. So who's the half? In the whole Chinese history until today, there's only one female emperor, not empress, female emperor. And her name is Wu Zetian. She's the only one, you can search her name. She ascended to the throne as Emperor of China in a world that at that time dominated by men. So she had concubines and all that, yeah. So she became the first emperor. So 21 and a half, because she's not a complete guy, right? So that's how they see it back in those days. So from then on, the master also draw a lot of pictures, and each picture tells of a different era. And apparently until Xi Jinping today is also part of those pictures. So we call this the pushing back diagram. And in this diagram is prophecies. And the third one is called the Book of Supreme World Order. The Book of Supreme World Order is written in the Song Dynasty, and it's full of poems. And the basis is based on the I Ching. It's based on the I Ching to predict, to give a prophecy of what's happening. And it has different poems and sentences about what happens in the year, right? And so for this year specifically, the hexagram is called Reform. So I did an event in January in Malaysia and in Singapore, and we talked about the prophecies. So in Reform, that means a lot of reformation is happening. If you look at Trump ascending back to the White House, it's a huge reform in the first 1 month, right? Even in the first 1 week, you've never seen anything like that, right? He changes many things, the way he restructured. And if he's reforming the whole government, I heard, right? It's like firing people, right?
Oh, he's doing some stuff. He's a bull. Right. Like I said, there's bulls in China shops all around the world.
So
good and bad, and by the way, that's good and bad. But they're the problem. Unfortunately, the problem is when you have a bull in the China shop, you can't tell the bull what China to break. It's going to break everything. Yeah.
It's going to break everything. So that's reform. And not only that, there are 6 things that the reform talks about. The first one is that the Mother Nature will show its true power. So I thought that it was just going to be earthquake, but then the moment we entered the year, now the I Ching, just so you know, the year begins in winter solstice, the red month. All right. Today we celebrate Chinese New Year around February, right? End of January, February, because it's spring, right? But back in the old days, the actual New Year is in December. I think at some point in the Ming Dynasty, is about 600 years ago, people just figure out, I think it's easier if we don't celebrate winter, right? So because it's really cold. So they changed the Chinese Lunar New Year to Spring Festival. But back in the old days, it's actually winter. The first month of the year is winter. So as we entered the new year, you have the LA fires and whatnot, right? So that happens, right? The second line in the hexagram, I don't have it here right now. I'll see if I can get my team to send it to you later. The poems as well. The second line says there will be a signal from the skies. So back in those days, it's meteors. But a signal from the sky today can mean it's like the rockets, they have messages or the explosions. So I heard that some of the rockets from SpaceX exploded, right, just around January. So that's the thing. And also, my assessment of this prophecy is that we probably will discover for the first time that we are not alone in the universe. So because it says that there's a message from the skies. Those days, they think the angels ascended, right? But today we know it's not the angels, it's probably some aliens, right? Something that you discover that is from space. The third thing talks about earthquakes and the earthquakes that happen around mid-year. So that it's already happening, but I see that based on the prophecy, it's very likely here in Asia, likely around Taiwan or Japan, major earthquakes are happening, right? And that could distort life and affect the way people, live. So that's around July or August. It says that the fourth line basically say that wars will end, but not without paying a high price. So if you think about it, whether the Gaza issue or the Ukraine issue, there's a high price to pay. It is stated in the poem. This is done last year. We showed the poem. I'll send the poems to you. These are the prophecies. And it's going that direction right now. So it's very likely the war will end after they paid the high price. So that's in both places, all the.
So what's the high price?
That's what's the high price. So I think that's the minerals in Ukraine, or now I think was that Trump's Gaza is happening, right? So it's it's going that direction, right? And so the fifth line says that the fifth thing in the world says the gap between the rich and the poor is huge, because the rich knows the rules and bends it to their will, whereas the poor does not know and will suffer as a result. So that is happening. I think one of the major themes this year, you will see the rich become super rich because they know how to bend the rules to their favor. And the sixth line says that you didn't listen to the old advice. People didn't listen to the old sages, and therefore they realize it too late. Now, hard to say this. Maybe they say, oh, you shouldn't have done this, or you have to follow the spiritual route, but you did not, and therefore you have this issue. We don't know what the sixth line exactly points to. It could say, you voted for this guy and now you have this, right? Now you're regretting. So it could be this. So that's the prophecy part.
So that's all of this. It's all 2025 basically.
Yeah.
So have you looked at like the next 5 years, which from what I understand from my own.
I look at the next 2 years. I think the next 2 years. So the next 2 years are called the Crimson Horse and the Blood Goat year. Crimson Horse, Blood Goat. So why is that so? Because next year is Fire Horse. So they give a nice name. It's called the Crimson Horse. Blood Goat because it's fire goat. So it's they give a nasty name to it because every 60 years, if they track back on Chinese cyclical calendars, in the years of the Crimson Horse and Blood Goat, there's always political havoc. Always. Now, the problem with Chinese metaphysics is primarily focused on China, right? So, but if it messes with China, it's going to affect the world today, right? Just like something is happening to the States, it affects the world. If something's happening to China, it also affects the world because most of the production and supply comes from, these two big countries. So Crimson Horse and Fire Goat is going to cause a lot of disturbance in Asian region. And the 60 years ago, it was the Cultural Revolution in China, and that wiped out a lot of what we know today. Because a lot of time, all of our metaphysics escaped from China in the Cultural Revolution. Because at that time, Chairman Mao just decided that, all this, no religion, no metaphysics, nothing. So it's just his philosophy. And a lot of the thing, they broke down the temples, they destroyed the texts, and a lot of the masters, they ran out of the country. They went to Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia. So they went all over, right? So that was 60 years ago. It started during the Crimson Horse and Blood Goat years. And China was in doubt for almost 10 years. Go back another 60 years, it was the downfall of the Qing dynasty, the Qing government, and the revolution that took over become republic. So every 60 years, all the way down to the Song dynasty, they always have some chaos. So that's why it's called the Crimson Horse, Blood Goat years. There are always 2 years that's happening. So if we follow this trend, that means China is going to go through that the challenges like next year and the year after, these 2 years. So we don't know exactly what it could be, but now we see the direction. It could be the tariffs and this thing is going that direction right now. So it could cause this problem. But after these 2 years, things will go to the right direction again. Everything will be good. It's these 2 years that's challenging.
It's so fascinating that everything that you're saying. I mean, as you know, on my show, I talk to a lot of psychics. I talk to a lot of channelers. I talk to a lot of mediums that give me prophecies. And we talk about prophecies. We talk about what's going to happen. And I've had other astrologers from different Western astrologers, Vedic astrologers. And I'm going to say that pretty much everything you've said, they've told me in one way, shape, or form. The accuracy of, you're the first astrologer who mentioned first contact, which is something that has been mentioned by psychics and channelers, and other
Oh, wow.
mystics have talked to me about, like, no, in these next 5 years, we're going to
Right,
know we're
right.
not alone. We're not alone in the universe, and that will completely reshape humanity. Because
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, I mean,
Yeah.
we're kind of being prepped with it, with the US government talking about, yeah, we've had aliens technology forever, and they're declassifying things, and yeah, there's UFOs, and no one has even blinked. It's fascinating. There was congressional hearings here, and no one said a word. Like, the world just kept going. Like, I think it was because social media, everyone's like, yeah, whatever. But I think that when you said that, I was like, oh wow, it was written hundreds of years ago. That
Yeah.
that
They say that the signal from the sky, a signal from the sky. I interpret that as a message from beyond, because a signal from the sky for those days, they think it's the angels descending, right? But to us, we know that it's got to be from a different planet or a different solar system.
and where do you see the world's economies going? Because it
Oh,
seems
okay.
like
So then we have to look
it's going
at the
crazy.
bigger picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we have to look at the bigger picture. So we have major cycles and minor cycles in metaphysics, right? So the major cycle just officially started to change in 2020, the full transformation 2024. So it takes 4 years for transition because we are talking about huge change, right? So it's gradual. So now we are officially in this cycle called the period 9, cycle of the Li Guam, Li trigram. So it's a fire trigram. So in this trigram, there are 6 lines as well, right? Sorry, a Li hexagram, there's 6 lines. And each 6 lines will tell you, if you break down the next 20 years into sections, you will see the ups and the downs. So the next couple of years, based on the chart, about 4 years or so, starting from 2024 to about 2027, 2028. Well, this transformation is reform, right? Things happen, the things will break down before they rebuild. Only from 2028 onwards, the next about 6 years after that, it will be smooth going up. And then there's another wave coming in where there's another huge transformation taking place, a lot of betrayals, a lot of rewriting will take place. So I would relate that to technology. Right now, technology will go, it's still chaotic. And then the smoothest time will be from 2020 onwards. Now the technology is doing well until certain point 6 years after that. Then bad things happen again. They need to rewrite it because it's dominating, taking over the world and whatever not. They have to rechange everything. So that phase is going to affect how we do things and how economy runs. So that big change is coming. Fire changes forms of other elements. It's the only one of the five elements that could, scorch the earth, burn the wood, melt the metal, make water evaporate. So fire transforms other elements. Other elements can't do that. Earth cannot do anything to the fire. Earth can't do much to the wood. Only fire can make other elements change. So this is happening in a 20-year cycle.
Are we gonna make it, Joey?
Yeah, we will make it. I don't think we're ending anytime soon, so no, not to
Okay,
worry.
good. Okay, good, good. I just had to ask. And what does when you mentioned technology, where do you think AI's place in all of this is happening? Because I've said it before, AI just showed up, and like within a year, it's just inserted itself so much in our everyday lives. The internet, when it
Yeah,
showed up, it took a slower
a couple of years.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah, it took a handful of years before it like really took hold. It took probably I could say 5 to 7 years when it really became an everyday thing. But AI just it showed up and it's getting stronger and bigger and more advanced and more things. Where does AI place in the metaphysical cycles?
AI is considered fire element. It's going to dominate for 20 years. This is just the beginning, I think. It will go through this transformation in until 2028. I think this will be the best time to incorporate it in, because by the time it becomes normal after 2028, you we will be too slow to follow. So right now would be the best time to do that, because then you're ahead of everybody else. 2028 is the cutoff point. Don't wait until then before we actually incorporate that in. And I think for myself, because we have so many cases and so many of these things that we've done in the last 30 years, it can help us summarize and look for patterns. So we can actually rewrite how the interpretations of the old style has changed and how it should be like for the future. We can train it to actually do this, and it will help us to do a lot of, it guides us in doing, our daily activities in business, in how we should, rectify our relationships, become better people. We use it to assist us. Then, nowadays we have to rely on the consultant to interpret the chart. What if they can be done by, without flaw, by AI? Then all we need to do is choose which action steps to take ourselves. That AI cannot decide for us. Well, we can decide what to do. So if it saves us time, why not? I think it's a good thing. Go with the flow.
Go with the flow. So in other words,
Yeah,
this is the time to get the URL and build a website. It's 1996. Get a
yeah,
URL and build a website is what you're saying.
yeah. Get your AI, to support you now. I think it helps a lot. I think now we don't know how to do it, because everyone is like, "What? How do you do this?" Right? But by the
Yeah.
time 2028 comes, everybody would know. By then, you'll just be one of many people, right? So now would be a great time to actually have it assist us in becoming better. We still have to make our own decisions. I think what people fear is that AI makes decisions for us. I don't think
Mhm.
you should allow it to do that. If AI makes a decision for you, then what's the point of having you around, right? So I think we have to make our own decisions, but we can support that decision with data. Isn't that what metaphysics is supposed to do? When we look at a chart, we give data to the person, and that the client decides what to do with it. We don't tell them, oh, your future is like this, and therefore there's nothing you can do. You're going to be prone to 45, So it's like that sort of information is not useful, So so, but that's the old style reading. So, but today is like, okay, if you take option one, these are the two things you need to do. If you take option three, these are the five things that you need to be aware of. All right, now you decide which one you want to do. Because basically a good life, right?
Yeah.
A good life, it's made up of good decisions, right? You decide well, you live well. But the problem is this: do people think that we need intelligence to make good decisions? Not all the time, because good decisions is always, always, always based on whatever choices you have at that time. So if you're born to a family that is quite well to do, your options of school obviously will be better than those who don't have those options when they're born, right? because you just have that, right? Choices are easier if the options are better, right? So the question is, how do you make better choices? You need better optics. That's where metaphysics come in. Metaphysics is the tool to give you optics. Like, oh, you actually have choice A, B, C, and D. You didn't see D. D is right there. Now you can compare. I'm just going to make this decision, and it's going to be better. So we should use metaphysics, be it the I Ching or the Qi Men or Feng Shui, help us see better. When we see it, now we know what to do. You don't have to be smarter to choose an option that is better, right? So clearly it's a better option. Just choose that, right? So that's the whole outcome. Better life.
In the way you're presenting it is that there are options and that you are in control of it.
Yes.
It is not written in stone. I mean, there are,
Yeah.
like we talked about earlier, mile markers. There are things that, you're going to be a man born to an Asian family, you're going to have this, this, and this. Those are things that are not changeable. But the
Yes.
path that we walk is very
Yeah.
changeable, even
Very changeable.
if we do have some destiny involved, but we have choices on how we want
Yes.
to walk those paths.
Absolutely.
And metaphysics can actually help us find these paths. I love when you said A, B, C. Oh, there's also D. You didn't even know D
Yeah.
was an option, but now D
Yeah.
is. So, maybe D was for me to be an NBA player, but
Yeah.
my destiny height wise did not work out to my favor.
That's a good one.
So, Joey, I'm going to ask you a few questions I ask all of my guests. What is your definition of living a fulfilled life?
For me, a fulfilled life is one that you are joyful and pleasant and peaceful all the time. I think that's the hardest to get. Despite everyone pursuing that, if one could live in a joyful way, I think you achieve something great. If people have money problems, relationship problems, health problems, you cannot live joyfully. So part of metaphysics to help us achieve those so that you could be joyful. That's how
Beautiful.
fulfillment should be, for me at least.
Now, if you had a chance to go back in time and speak to little Joey, what advice would you give him?
Start metaphysics earlier.
Don't listen to that one fortune teller.
For some reason, I didn't take his word as I didn't. I have to listen to him because that sparked the interest to learn. If I yeah if I said I accepted it, then I wouldn't have learned this, right? So in a way, he helped me, right? In a way, he helped me that, hey, I want to find out what I can do. He didn't give me the answer. He said, I cannot do anything about it. I just have to get used to it. So if that session didn't happen, I probably would learn this. So yeah, many things happen for a reason. Is how you see it.
How do you define God or source?
God or source. I think it's a spark of divine. So the way metaphysics do that, and I resonate with this version. I'm sure there are many versions of it. Is that there is we call this heaven, earth, man, right? The Trinity. In metaphysics, we have heaven, earth, man. So there are three things. So when we say the soul, it's a spark of that divinity is in you. Therefore, you are alive. If this soul leaves you, you're dead, right? So the soul within enters into the fetus. Now a fetus becomes the embryo becomes fetus. It has a life. The heart starts to beat. Life form begins when the spark of divine, which is a soul, starts. So over time, the soul will develop the spirit. The spirit, therefore, is your mind. So the mind itself will make decisions, will interpret things, and all that. So now the mind forms one version of you. This is the version. This is the Joey Yap version, which is the mind created. So we call it the spirit. So the spirit in turn governs this body, heaven, earth, man, right? Three things. So when I gone, right, is when the spirit leaves, the soul will also leave at the same time. The soul itself it doesn't change form. It just creates another spirit. That's another life. So at one point, we have this same soul, there are many different spirits, which is different versions of me. So there could be one version that I could be doing this, one version I'm doing something else. That's me in this version. It will stay in this world. The soul will reincarnate to go and find another version to create a different life. But it's the same soul. So in other words, Many spirits, it make up one soul. Many soul equals to God or the creator source. So we're all one in that sense. It's the same source, but it's just one spark of it. So that's how I see it. Heaven, earth, man.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. What is love?
Well, I think love is basically whether you care for people. For me, it's like that. If someone that I care for also has the same effect with the care for me, I think there's love in there. That's what I see. The version is quite different, passion and all that. I think I wouldn't see deep passion as just love. I would see that there's certain care that you really want someone to be better, and that someone also wants you to be better. I see that as love.
If you could ask God or Source one question, what would it be?
How do I be smarter? So I can figure this stuff out. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And finally, what is the ultimate purpose of life?
To be happy.
Beautiful
I
answer.
think whatever we do, we just want to be happier. That's my purpose.
And where can people find out more about you and the amazing work you're doing in the world?
Oh, you can find me on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. I also have a Telegram channel. And I hang out a lot on Instagram at Joey Yap.
And what's your website?
JoeyYap.com.
And do you have any parting messages for the audience?
Well, live happy. I think that's the whole purpose. Metaphysics, one main mission is to help you live a fulfilled and happy life. Many people use it to create wealth. If that makes you happy, why not? But if you can make a difference, is make someone happy. Help someone become happier. That will be the true purpose of metaphysics.
Joey, this has been such an enlightening conversation. I know it's going to send ripples throughout my community in a good way. I truly appreciate it. And please do me a favor. Next time you're in the States, make your way to Austin so we can have an in-person conversation, my friend.
Sure. All right. Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey, and don't forget to subscribe.